Hey students, this morning I went into D2L and I clicked a button. That button displays your final grade in this class. Now some of you are going to see that number that's displayed and you're going to panic because you thought you were doing a lot better in the class. Well, the good news is you are doing a lot better. The number D2L shows you assumes that you're going to make a 0 on any work that's left between now and the end of the semester. What's going to happen as you do more work, as you do more quizzes, as you take the next exam, as you turn in projects, that grade is going to climb up slowly and steadily, and it'll get a little better every single day. You just got to keep working and the grade will just keep climbing. Now, to figure out what your final grade will be, you've got to check the syllabus. That is the place where we lay out the rules for how we determine your grades. And every semester the syllabus is different. Tinker with the grade skill every semester, make some minor changes. It's different in different classes if you're watching this for a different class than Ag Econ. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use some examples from a typical syllabus. So let's say hypothetically that exams are worth 60% of your grade, that there's some kind of project due that's worth 10% of your grade, that I've got some homework or quizzes that are worth 20% of your grade, and I have some kind of participation or maybe an online discussion board that's worth 10% of your grade. And let's say that up to this point in the semester, you've taken all of the relevant quizzes and done all the relevant homework up to this point, say up to the second exam. So let's say you made a C on the exam, so your exam score is 30% out of a potential 40% up to this point. And with the last exam, it would be 60%, right? You haven't done the project yet, so it's worth 0. Homeworks and quizzes, you've done all the relevant ones up to this point, so you've got a 10% out of a possible 20% in that category. Maybe you haven't done the classroom participation project or done the discussion boards in an online class, so maybe your discussion and participation score is 0%. That gives you a final grade of 40%. And you look at that and you say, wait a second, I made a C on the exams. How do I have an F in the class? Well, that's because you still have 10% left in the quizzes. You still have an exam worth 20%. You still have a participation grade worth 10%. And a project that's worth 10%. You add all that up, that's 50%. You still have half the available percentage points in the class laying on the table for you to pick up. And as you do the assignments, as you turn things in, that final grade that D2L displays is going to go up. Here's how you interpret that grade that D2L is showing you right now. That is the grade you earn if you stop. So if you don't do any more work and you've got a 40% in the class, you're going to earn an F in the class. But if you don't want an F and you want to just keep doing some more work, your grade's going to slowly start to climb. And what you can do is you can start to kind of back out what you have to make on the last test. So let's say you finish all your work and the only thing you have to do is take the last test. Well, your exam score is still 30% out of the possible 60% you can earn in the exam category. Again, you haven't taken the last test yet. You got a perfect score on your project because you're just an overachiever. Homework and quizzes, not quite perfect, but a good solid 15%. You picked up 5 out of the 10% available in your discussion. And now your final grade in D2L is showing you at 60%. And you're saying, how can I have a 60%? How can I have a D when I've got a C on my test? You don't have a D. You have a D if you give up and don't take that test. So if all you want to do is pass, skip the last test if that's all you want out of life. But here's what you got to remember. That last test is worth 20% of your grade. So if you take that test and you make a fantastic score on it, you could be sitting on a B in the class instead of a D. Sounds to me like you should take the test. And in fact, you could even bomb that test. You could make a 50% or higher, and that would put your grade into the C territory, which is what you've made on the past 2 exams in this example. And that is kind of important, right? The way I try to explain it to students is that the grade that D2L is showing you right now is the grade that you get if you quit. All right? If you are happy with a D and you don't want to do any more work, well, a good economist would tell you that you should, do something different with your resources, right? Just look at the opportunity cost. So if you're sitting there thinking, oh, D's good enough for me, right? Then, don't take the last test. In this scenario, you've got that D. But at the same time, if you would like to do better than a D, you can still bump your letter grade a little bit. You might be able to go back and work a quiz. Maybe there's a couple you haven't made a perfect score on yet. You might be able to jump into a discussion board and get a few more points on some discussion posts. So I would say don't give up and sit there with the grade it's showing you now. Work. Log into D2L. Take some quizzes. If it's an on-ground class, come to class and participate in the participation grade so that you can get your grade up a little bit higher. And the main thing is, don't panic if you log in and see a final grade that looks really abysmal, because that's not your actual final grade. You're going to watch that grade climb slowly as you work on the content in the course, and eventually you'll get to the point where you're done and you'll know the final grade because it'll display just plain as day. Anyways, thank you for listening. I hope this cleared up the air on how your grade's calculated. I will catch you next time.